Breyer.
Ronnie Tickle, Memphis.
Cindy DeBusk, Knoxville.
Randy Chase, Nashville.
Item on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. I'll
Make
either
a motion, we adopt the agenda set forth for today's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item is hardships approved by the executive director.
Tab 2, these have all been reviewed by a board member, and they are posted on the website.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item is the annual requirements for 2015, 2015-16 officers. Is this where I hand the meeting off?
Yes, we need to nominate.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Ronnie Tickle to be, well, I guess I should start at the bottom. Reese Smith to be the secretary of the board. Ronnie Tickle to be vice president or vice chair. Jerry Hayes to be chairman. And yourself to be our immediate past chairman as an agenda or a slate of officers.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you, Mark. The next thing on the agenda is to adopt Robert's Rules of Order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe the ayes have it. Next on conflict of interest policy.
I believe I've emailed this to you, and you've all also reviewed it today. And as far as I know, I think everybody has signed it, and this is just an annual requirement. So I think we're good there.
The next item is the board meeting transcript to review and approve.
Move for approval.
I hear a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the budget.
Better speak up so they can hear you. You're up. Got here just in time.
Chairman, yeah, I heard you guys are ahead of schedule. Board members?
All right.
We're a very efficient group here.
We're glad to be here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First order of business, I want to introduce the new Assistant Commissioner for Regulatory Boards, Mr. Brian McCormack.
Morning.
Probably most of you know Brian from his stint over at the Governor's Office as the Director of Boards and Commissions. We're very excited to have him here, and I hope you guys will be as friendly and welcoming to him as you were to me. So, appreciate that. Any of your third week, is that right?
It's my third week.
He's drinking from the fire hose. We are here today to present to you, as we did last year, I think in Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, I think is where we did that at, is presented your budget to you, or your fiscal year end. So as much as I enjoy going to Jackson, I appreciate you guys being in Nashville this year. So, does everybody have a copy of it in front of them? I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Also want to introduce Bill Huddleston here to my right, who is the new Kimberly Whaley. Bill is an auditor and is our accounting manager for the Division of Regulatory Boards. And he's helped prepare this, and he's in about his second month? Third month. So got a bunch of greenhorns here today.
Thanks, man.
Sure. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. At any point, if you guys want to stop and ask questions about any specific line item, please feel free to do that if I'm going too fast. I'm going to start at the top in the far right-hand corner. If you'll see FY 13-14, that is the most recent year. You can see that your regular salary and wages were $469,267. Total payroll expenditures of $700,785, which are very consistent with the previous 3 years. We commend your hardworking staff for that. Your travel was $15,959, again, consistent with the previous year and down substantially from 10-11 and also from 11-12, and we commend you guys for that. That is mostly board meeting travel. I'm going to go all the way down to total other expenditures of $186,156, which is also down from the previous 3 years, down significantly from 10-11 and 11-12. Taking your grand total to $886,941, again very consistent with the previous year and down from the two before that. Cost backs, which are your departmental costings, resources that you all share with other programs and other agencies in the department. Your share of that was $309,177, down significantly from previous years. Your investigative costs were $297,361. Your legal costs were $200,081. Total cost backs of $806,618, leaving your total expenditures of $1,693,559. Licensing revenue was up from the previous year. It was $2,245,796. Case and complaint revenue of $116,737. Your state regulatory fee of $115,330, leaving your net revenue to $2,247,203 with a fiscal year balance of $553,645. Added to your prior fiscal year reserve, that left your reserve at $3,626,655. Your core expense, which is our new licensing system that we very much hope to have implemented this year, is $105,288. That accounts for about 75% of the board's cost of that system. So you're 3/4 of the way through paying for that, and that money came out of your reserves, did not come out of your current year operating expense. So after your core expense, your reserve balance was $3,521,368. Guys are living comfortably. Do you have any questions?
Bill, I have a question. I'm not familiar with the term core. Is that?
Core, that's the licensing system. We currently use a system called RBS, and we are purchasing a new licensing system, and it is the 8th grandchild of the current system we have. It is the 8th generation newer. The system that we have today was purchased in 1993 under the Ned McWhirter administration. So if you can kind of imagine using the cell phone that you had in 1993, that would kind of give you some idea of the licensing system that we're currently using. Your director and her staff have been participating in user testing for about a year, and we are hoping that sometime in late summer that we'll have the system implemented.
Is this a one-time cost, or is it?
Yes, it's a one-time cost.
Is that the reason it come out of reserves? We won't have a continuing expense on it?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So, and probably many of you have had to purchase or computer systems for your businesses, you know, when you get into something as substantial as a statewide licensing system, it's a fairly small cost in the grand scheme of things. We've been able to spread it out across all the boards, so. And being able to take it out of your reserves helps. Any other questions? We just want to, again, commend your director and the staff for the great job that they do, and you guys for being conservative. Again, part of this process is to show you where you're at financially. Certainly, if you want to, this is a great time for you all to consider to look at your fee structure, make sure that it's where you would like it to be. As noted here, you guys are in great shape financially, and we're here anytime. Your staff is doing a great job at managing your money. So we thank you for your time.
I think he's brought up the fee structure, and I think we need to leave it alone because at where we are with what we added to the total revenue balance or to our reserve is not that significant. I mean, it's a significant number probably compared to other boards, but we're probably one of the only boards that do add to the reserve as a way. All have a recommendation?
No, I think that's entirely in the board's discretion. I do want to say that all of the programs actually are, in the regulatory boards, are adding money to their reserves. So that is incorrect, but I'll be sure and point that out. But I think it's a good opportunity for you all as a board to look at, are you charging the right people the right amount? I think that's what you want to be sure that you're doing, and be sure that you're, if your licensees who are not consuming resources, say, with their licensing fees, are actually going to pay for the discipline or for name changes, I think we talked about last year, things like that. You want to make sure that you are charging the right people who are consuming your resources. So, again, that is part of the board's responsibility to discuss your fee structure. Certainly, we would be, I think it would be irresponsible of us to come in and give you a budget or a fiscal presentation about the state of your board and not remind you that this is a great time for you all to discuss that. So.
That was a suggestion at the Sunset Review that we lower our fees because we had too much money in the reserve. That was.
Well, yeah, and I think that's certainly a question that's going to come up anytime you're over in front of a fiscal review and you've got a fairly sizable reserve. They're going to ask you about that. I mean, that's part of the nature of the separation of powers in government here. So. I think it's a fair question. I think you all should, and again, one of the reasons that I present that to you today is so that you, as a board, can have that discussion before you get over in front of the legislature to talk about that. So, and again, I think you should be very cautious. We don't know what the economy is going to do, but I think it's good to have an open discussion about it, regardless if at the end of that discussion, the determination is that you should not move your fees. I think it's healthy on an annual basis for you all to have that. Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you for coming, Bill.
License approval, the waive license. We do all these.
Make a motion that we approve all the waived licenses.
Here, second.
Second.
Before we approve them all, I have one.
Well, that's not the interview.
I know, it's not an interview.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
waived license that I've got to talk about. It's license number 68415. It is a builder out of Miamisburg, Ohio, Dennis Builders LLC, who are applying for a second license. And they already have a license for a Dennis Building Investments LLC, I believe. And they're trying, well, for Dennis Builders. Okay, we're trying to finalize our license for Dennis Builders, and they have Dennis Building Construction Company. They want to use the same qualifying agent on both. And they're very closely related companies. They want to use Anthony Suttles as the qualifying agent. He acts in a similar capacity for both of their companies. He's an officer in both companies, but he doesn't own at least 20% in either one of them. The two companies are merely different vehicles we use to pursue various types of work. We'd appreciate the board's consideration to allow him to be listed as qualifying agent on both licenses. Carolyn tells me that we have done that in the past. They're both operated out of the same place, closely related companies, and I'd recommend that we do allow that for this particular company.
I noticed one on here from Millington. Is that the electrician? Is that the electrician we have trouble with every year, all the time? Okay.
I've also got one that came in late, apparently, that isn't in the list. Tex 10 Construction LLC. It's number 68489. Applying for a BC $1 million limit. I don't see any problem with it.
I'll make a motion, we approve all the waived licenses, applications, or approvals.
Is there a second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we've got the interviewed.
Mr. Chairman, I've got two that I interviewed. The first one is a reinstatement of an expired license. It's home improvement license number 6392. On the reinstatement application, they actually stated that they had completed projects in excess of $3,000 in their county. 5 projects they had listed, and I propose that we go ahead and issue the license with the one caveat that they pay $250 per violation of unlicensed activity, and that payment be made before the license would be renewed or reinstated. The next one is another roofing company, home improvement license number 7316. This was also a reinstatement, and on the reinstatement they listed one job that they had completed, and they agreed to a unlicensed activity civil penalty of $500 for the amount of the project. That again is license number 7316.
Want to vote on those now?
Yeah, we'll get all of them.
I've got 2 of them also. One is a felony for a home improvement. He's been off probation for 5 years. No other felonies or misdemeanors in the last 5 years, and I'm recommending approval of him. It's Agape Home Improvements. The other one is Acme Enterprises. They had an unlimited license. In 2012, it was lowered to $779. They're from Michigan. They bid a project in Tennessee over the $779 limit. They were low bidder. They went to get their permit. Permitting authority wouldn't allow them to pull the permit because they were over their limit. So they lost the job, but he is now applying for unlimited, has financial capability for unlimited, and has agreed to pay a $1,000 fine for bidding over his limits. I'm recommending approval for them.
Chairman, I've got three. Let me go address the first two first. Henderson Enterprises, I had questions about their experience and about the intent of their license. He's a franchisee. He satisfied me that he will stay within his limits. He later on wants to get a contractor's license, so I would recommend approval of that home improvement license, number 7992. I also have Connor Asphalt Paving of Corryton, who he purchased his company from some relatives. In the interim of all this changeover, he did some unlicensed work in Knoxville. He has agreed to pay a $500 civil penalty, and then once that's paid, we can approve his license. I would recommend that. I have a third felony issue, and he is here to address the board. So I'd recommend that we finish all the rest of these and then address him separately.
Okay.
Chairman, I have three home improvements. License number 6394. This gentleman is a roofer. Probation, he got off in 2008. He had a crime in 2005 for narcotics, that was marijuana. He's been roofing for over 5 years. He's married, been married for other one.
He's off probation.
Yes, sir. He's off probation. And then I have another one. This is a felony also. This is a 79999. He is a floor contractor from Georgia. He works for Lumber Liquidators. He's been doing flooring for 23 years. 1997. He stole 5 ribeye steaks and some pork chops. Go to boot camp for 69 months. And he had something before then, but that's what got him. But he has been clean, and he been married for 15 years, has 4 sons, and I recommend approval with him. Then I have another one. That's also a felony. He is a floor man also. Worked for Lumber Liquidators. Been working for them for 12 years. He signed his check of his mother-in-law's and prosecuted, and he went to jail and was put on probation. He served 15 months. This is 1999. Prior to that, he was an electrician, and but he offered to be an electrician. It was to be a floor man, so he decided to be a floor man. And been married for 18 years and has 3 children, 1 on the way, and I'd recommend approval for him.
They're all off probation.
Yes, sir. All on off probation. And I have a Kathy. Is that goes now? I have one more. This couple is see, license number 68345, applying for a specialty license, low voltage landscaping license. They're asking for $100,000. These people are from Kentucky, and they didn't realize that Kentucky, we got a little fine print that we only reciprocate like $2,500 from Kentucky, and everybody else is 25,000 or better that we reciprocate from. As soon as they saw that they had a problem, they immediately stopped and asked for a license, and I recommend. Yes.
I move to approve the interview with the exception of Plumbers Plus, which we can consider separate.
Favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Do you want to consider that one separate?
Yeah, this gentleman and his partner are here. Mr. Carlton is, he has a felony record. He is asking for a $25,000 limit on a plumbing business. He has, I'll have to say, an extensive record, which includes robbery and some other issues, bad checks, battery, use of a weapon. He is still on probation and will be on probation until what year? 2028, which is a long time. He is a 20% owner of this company. Ms. Belinda Thurman, who is also here, is the 80% owner. His probation is supervised, but not much. He only checks in once a year. And there's an expectation from his attorney that they'll try to eliminate the probation requirement within the next year or two, but of course there's no guarantee of that. I interviewed him. I'm impressed with him, but it's been kind of our policy not to approve folks who are on probation and who are still on probation. And at the same time, it's also no one's intention here to keep someone from making a living. But considering the nature of his offenses in the past, and some of them were property offenses, which in my opinion are a big deal when you're letting somebody go into a person's home, and we have to have an expectation they're going to do the right thing. I thought that rather than make my own recommendation here, I'd let him come make his own case. An officer or owner is what the thing says. And he's
You mentioned he was 20% owner?
20%, she's 80%.
Okay.
I did suggest that if she were 100% owner and had a different qualifying agent, but that really won't work for them. Basically, he's the plumber, and he's going to be going in doing plumbing work in homes, and has apparently been doing that as an employee other places. I'll let him explain his circumstance. I thought this was unusual enough that the whole board needed to make a decision on it. So, Mr. Carlton, with the chairman's permission, I'll just kind of let you make a case for yourself and tell us what's going on with you.
Board, I'm James Carlton. I'm representing Plumbers Plus. I've been out of trouble for 6 years, and I've worked very hard to get where I'm at. And it means the world to me that Ms. Thurman would even invest in me like she has. I've worked for a couple of other different plumbing contractors in the Chattanooga and Dalton area, and I've been going in and out of homes for years now. That's a part of my life I wish I could forget and erase, but I can't. And all I can do is come and stand in front of you and say that, you know, I need another person than I was back then. You know, I haven't been in any trouble in 6 years, almost 7. November will be 7 years. My livelihood. This is what I do, and that's what I'm good at. First glance, thinking that I had to come and stand in front of the board, it seemed like an impossible feat, but I have gotten certification after certification after certification. PEC certification. I can do sewer, septic tank certification, everything but a state license. I can't go get a permit if I need it. That's why I'm here. I don't know what else to say,
What type of plumbing work do you intend on trying to do?
Residential plumbing, and also I would like to bid on some municipality work to do mainline sewers from the residents to the street.
When you speak
mainline.
of residential, do you mean repair or new construction?
Repair and some new construction. I've got several different general contractors that have requested me to come and give them a bid on doing some work for them, but I've just haven't been able to without a license.
What do you anticipate the bulk of your revenues to be from the service side of it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So that means you'll be going into people's homes and places where homeowner may not be at home, or
There's been several occasions where a homeowner has just met me at their home and said, I'm going to leave the door unlocked for you. Call me when you're done, and leave a check with me and leave their house unlocked and leave me there alone on several different occasions. It's important that I had represented another company, Metro Sewer and Drain out of Chattanooga. And Mr. Mark Harden is the owner. And he had even discussed with me going into partnership with him. It meant a lot to me that he believed in me that much. The man almost wouldn't even give me a job because of my background. Said he needed a CDL driver, and so I didn't have CDL. So I went and took my test and went back with a permit, just a learner's permit. And I said, look, if you'll let me drive with the guy until I get my license, I'll work for free. I just need a chance. And he said that was the best decision he ever made, was to give me an opportunity. It broke my heart to have to leave Metro, but I needed to try to do something on my own. And so that.
A master plumber.
I have taken the test, and I have passed the test. So I would say yes, I'm a master plumber.
what exam did he take for his state license?
He made a 76 on the CMCA test. He passed the business and law management test as well.
Your probation until to 2028?
2028. I wasn't even aware of what year it was. Mr. Mason there had told me that. I know I'd went and got the paperwork from the courthouse and the probation office to submit to you gentlemen.
Been clean for the last 6 years on everything? Just curiosity's sake, are y'all married, or you just? No, okay. Doesn't make any difference. I'm just trying to put it on my head.
Mrs. Dalton like to make a statement in his defense, since she's 80% owner of the company.
My name is Belinda Thurman. 15 years ago, I wouldn't have invested in a plumbing company, wouldn't have thought about it. I actually work for a gentleman and run 3 of his other companies. I have known James for 15 years, and I'm not actually investing in the company, I invested in him. He does know what he's doing. I do trust him, and I don't worry one bit when he goes into someone's home or it doesn't. That doesn't even cross my mind. 15 years ago, it probably would have, but to this day, it does not. It doesn't concern me. I believe in him 100%.
Well, y'all are he's granted that, and if anything goes wrong, you know, you're responsible just like he is. Okay.
And any further trouble, if you do get a license, this board will almost certainly act to take that license away. I'd like your assurance as 80% owner that if that happens, you'll voluntarily surrender the license.
Well, our policy has been we don't approve a license for someone that is on probation, and that with that policy, and I commend you for your honesty. Respect that. However, we've had others come before this board with same story, similar story, definitely not on probation till 2028. Based on our policy of not approving a license.
Ask why that is.
Our policy statement is to protect the welfare of the public, and him, and he's gone into homes, but our job is to protect the public, and I don't know if someone, you know, would want a person going in their house that's still on probation, even if they're honest and they do great work. I mean, some people will, some people won't, but that's our policy, because we have not approved in the past.
I'm conflicted. I've always been kind of in Cindy's corner on this. I've a time or two made an exception. I think you and I voted against one day that everybody else voted for.
Well, maybe so.
And it's just, that's why I wanted to bring it to the whole board. I agree that the policy has been a general policy that we've been pretty stuck to. And it's like such a long probationary period to me. It's exceptionally long. And, you know, problem, and he's not even my majority owner of the company. It just seemed like a little bit different. That's why I was conflicted on the whole thing. And I want him to make his own case to you, which I think he's made a compelling case for himself.
We probably don't know. There's probably licensees all over this state that are sending employees.
If she were the 100% owner and qualified on her own, she could hire him, and we have no control over that. And so, you're right. I mean, there's felons all over the state going into homes.
But right now,
And they're not here to ask us face to face to do something for them.
Would he?
definitely not here to tell them how to circumvent our policy.
No.
And reason in the past we've not approved someone on probation is
I'm more concerned, yeah, I agree with that. I'm more concerned, of course, and I told them during the interview process that, and somebody else mentioned this here today, going into people's homes with a license from the state of Tennessee, which we represent on this board, has said, this guy's okay. In our opinion, this guy's okay. And we've gone ahead and given a license. And, of course, we have a public. And so the question I think we have to make a judgment on today is, are we okay?
There is, y'all did one case I know of, and maybe more, that you allowed, you issued the license while they were still on probation. It was sort of the same circumstances. It was because it was so long. I think it was like a 20-year probation. So I did want to throw that out there, that y'all have done it before.
I don't remember it, but that's my concerning factor, is the length of the probation. You mentioned that he had told you that maybe in a couple of years or so, they might get that probationary term
That's
reduced.
his attorney's intention, is what he tells me.
And that might be the time to come back and maybe reapply, but.
Tell him what you said the probation officer said to you about that, about you being on probation at this point.
I'm sorry I get emotional. I have to talk about this, but asked them to go ahead and waive the extent of.
This is your probation officer saying that.
Yes, sir. Not an attorney.
Not your attorney, but the
probation officer. They just, I don't really have to check in. They told me to just call them once a year and let them know everything's okay and about my
Your
employment.
supervised probation consists of once a year phone call to the probation officer.
It's actually, if you'll read the letter, it's actually unsupervised probation. So, no, gentlemen, that's just more security for you, that I'm not going to get out and do anything stupid, that I am on probation.
You incarcerated?
Yes, sir.
So you might have been clean longer than 7 years, but how long were you incarcerated?
They're asking for Plumbers Plus to be given a license, $5,000 license. And due to the fact that he's he's 20% owner, then we're saying no, other than his record. I mean, if he didn't know, I'm trying to get this in my mind. If he was not an owner,
We wouldn't be here.
we wouldn't be here, and then they could get the license, and he could be a qualifying agent. Am I?
No, he'd still be here if he were the qualifying agent. If he were just an employee, he wouldn't be.
He's a qualifying agent. He has to be clean, so to speak. Is that correct?
Right.
Are you licensed in Georgia? Same reason?
I'm certified in all aspects except.
They denied you a license?
No, sir.
You hadn't applied? It's not necessary in Georgia?
I really don't do a whole lot.
Need a motion?
I can make a motion. We hold this till next meeting.
Hold it to what?
To our next meeting. I like to think about this. I mean, that's just me. Nobody has to say yes. Just ask a question. That's good.
Second, is there another motion?
The issue will be about the same next time. 2 months from now as it would be now.
Okay. All right. I withdraw my motion.
I'll move for approval.
Have a motion to move for approval. Is there a second?
I second it.
Have a second? Let's have a roll call vote, starting to my left.
I'll second it. He's already seconded. I'll approve it.
Reese Smith, yes.
Keith Whittington, no.
Mark Rudd, yes.
Bill Mason, yes.
Ronnie Tickle, yes.
Cindy DeBusk, no.
Randy Chase, yes.
Carries. Okay. Move to the revisions. Thank you very much.
Make a motion, we approve all revisions.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. The LLEs,
Make a motion, we approve the LLEs that are listed.
second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? LLPs, have,
Make a motion, we approve the LLPs. There are 2 of them.
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next on the agenda, legal report.
Since we have somebody here in the audience to discuss legislation, you think we should go ahead so they don't have to sit through all this?
Make it short.
Okay, we'll take up the legislative update.
This is in your tablet. Mine. Okay, it's House Bill 24. This is something I have been discussing. It's the Go Build Tennessee Act, and I have been speaking with some of the industry associations about it, particularly about our fees. The Sunset legislature wanted us to lower our fees, and they did mention that before we lowered their fees, this would be a good cause to give some of our money that we can't spend to this. Now, when they wrote the bill, I think it was probably a misunderstanding. I'll get it out in a minute, I'm sorry. I had said that we needed to lower our fees, and I think they thought I meant lower it by 50%. And that's where the 50% come from in here. So I've spoke to Bob Pitts, and he was thinking that I had meant that we were going to have to give back 50% of our revenue, and rather than give it back to the general fund, that was what they were going to do. They were going to use it for. But he said to make sure that you all know that they're totally open, and they're not wanting to take all the money. They were only wanting to keep it from going to the general fund, and also use this without having to raise our fees to cover it. But you all can probably Bill Young and Kent Starwalk, they can probably explain it a lot better than me, so.
Good morning, Kent Starwalt, the Executive Vice President of the Tennessee Road Builders, and I have been somehow appointed the chairman of the Go Build little committee that we have within the industry, and it's made up of our group that worked on this legislation, AGC of East Tennessee, AGC of Tennessee, ABC and ABC of West Tennessee, I'm not sure exact their direct title, the Home Builders Association and the Road Builders. And so we've been working on the legislation, and I guess, do you all have a copy of it? So if you don't, okay, I have copies. And so we worked on the legislation, and it was really actually introduced last year, and there was, the way it was proposed to be funded last year was either looking at unemployment or workers' comp, and there were some concerns about that. And so through discussions, and again, sort of through the discussions, we heard from GovOps about the need to either reduce the fee or the fees and the reserves that you all have going into the general fund, and that's where we looked at it. So we came back this year and redrafted the bill with the idea of looking at the fees that come to the contractors licensing board. And so again, the 50% number was a number that we thought was something that we could use. And so that's where that came from. And again, we're obviously would love your support of this program and be able to use part of the licensing fees to go towards it. And obviously, if that's the case, it's not a tax increase, which was a big issue with concern to the workers' comp and the unemployment. And so that's really what we're trying to do. Obviously, the Go Build and what it is really a public service campaign to try to get people in the construction industry. This is a national effort really by Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs. If you're familiar with him, he is a very active participant in this program. It is up and running in Alabama and Georgia, and there is a Go Build national organization that we would be able to use much of the stuff that they've already put together with regard to websites and commercials and that kind of thing. So, and again, its idea give lots of TV is primarily where it's used to again encourage people to get in the construction industry and consider it as a career. And what the legislation also talks about is actually establishing a 501c3, and that's who would administer the funds that would be transferred under the bill, transferred from the Contractors and Licensing Board to this 501c3. They would again administer the Go Build, and the makeup of that 501c3 would be of the same organizations that we talked about. Again, what we discussed was obviously 2 people from AGC, and then 2 people from ABC, and then 2 from the home builders and 2 from the road builders. So that's kind of what we had talked about, thought about, and how we would operate this and how the money would be administered for the program. The bill also allows state grants or even appropriations from the General Assembly to pay for it. And so, again, we're just looking for a creative way and a way that we could really include the entire construction industry in sponsoring this effort. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. But we obviously would love your support, but we can be glad to talk about the percentage.
Y'all are asking for half of what we have.
Again, that's what the bill says. But again, that's that if that's not possible, that was an understanding that we had, and that may not have been clear on our part what was available that we might transfer. But
What type of budget were you looking at when you first started discussing this?
To do the statewide campaign that we're talking about, and in looking at the experiences in both Alabama and Georgia, the hope was that we would have about $1 million on an annual basis. It's a pretty good sized campaign.
Want to train skilled workers, or what?
It's mostly just getting people aware of the jobs that are available in the construction industry. That's the primary purpose of it. And the training was more of a secondary aspect of this, but primarily it was more about the public service to get people aware of that the construction industry is viable jobs, great pay, good pay, and something that they ought to be considering the first time and not the 5th or 6th career change.
Community colleges and technology centers not already offer programs in this field?
Yeah, they offer training, but what they don't offer is the public awareness aspect of this and try to get people. That's the major aspect of the program, is the public awareness of it and getting people involved in the construction industry.
We've had one member of this board has agitated for years, maybe that's not the right word, advocated for years for continuing education for contractors. I have myself, and I think other members here, have advocated for years that we use some of our funds for public awareness just to let consumers know things like make sure this roofer has a license, you know, to protect the public, which is really within our purview. And we have 2 inspectors now, and we used to have 10. So this bill is going to create a nonprofit corporation, take half the money, use it to, sounds like do public relations for the construction trades, which, you know, I don't think is unworthy, but I just wonder if I would think that's the best use of our reserves. Let me mention something else here. In this, I find the most, even if this is what we decide is the best thing to do, or the legislature does, because they'll be the ones to decide, you know, is in section 105C, the board with the approval of the corporation may promulgate rules. In other words, the corporation writes its own rules, because whatever we write has to be approved by this 401C. So basically, there's a corporation set up, they get half the money, and they write their own rules on how to use it. We're just an agent, we're just a vehicle to produce the funding for the program. You know, they give us this facade of we have something to say about it, but we really don't. We can't even write rules unless these trade organizations say they're okay. And I find that objectionable, even if all the rest of it goes through. I would hope, Ken, and the rest of you, that I can't imagine we'd write rules without the consultation and strong input of the corporation and the constituent groups involved, but to have us do it with their approval emasculates us as a board with any kind of decision-making process. I think that's really objectionable. So if nothing else gets changed, I hope that gets changed.
Is the board consisting of the makeup of the 4 entities that you described? The home builders, the road industry? That's your board, correct?
That would be, yes, that's the
That
board.
would be the board
Of the
making-
C3, that's correct, sir.
They would, okay, all right. Is none of this money, I guess, is not used for any scholarship, it's just a promotional, we're not, are we gonna give any scholarships out?
You know, we hadn't discussed that.
Okay.
Carolyn, how much, I mean, what would 50% do to us?
The department did a fiscal note on this. They did 50% because they said the way the bill's written, it would be before our expenditures, and that it would make us negative. They came up with a -$1 million, but of course they said that's because the way it was written, it did not say we could pay our expenditures, that they could come out first. And that it also included all fees, not just licensing fees, that it took in the new license, the renewal fees, and the civil penalties. And so they took all that, and they came up with a fiscal note that was over a negative, that would put us in a red. So,
You looking for some action from this board or just comments?
well,
or-
this is mainly to bring it to, bring it to your attention. And I just thought it would, it'd be good, because definitely it needs to be rewarded, and we want to make sure whatever is rewarded is, something y'all want. Because they're going to take it back to the legislature, and basically it's to get it fixed, because our fees are just sitting there. They're not being used. The only other thing would be is for them to look for other resources. So,
If I could, I've been on the board since 2005, and I think it's along about that time I started talking about continuing education and wanted to get some of our reserve money spent on continuing education. At that point in time, I think we had a $6 million reserve balance. It was about a year and a half or two later, the General Assembly come in and took the reserve balance from the board to balance the state budget. So if there's anything I've learned about our reserve balance, it's that it's never a sure thing. And as long as government needs that money, the government will use that money for what they need it for. So that's my first word of caution about looking at these funds, is they may be here today and gone tomorrow, and it's never a sure thing. With having said that, the way it looks like with what we added to the reserve balance in the last 2 fiscal years was about $600,000 was the way I look at it. So over a 2-year period, 50% of that would be $300,000. Is that the number that you guys are looking at? Or is that a pipe dream? I'm real interested to know what you're expecting out of those funds, because
Are y'all looking at $1,500,000 from us? Is that what y'all looking at from us?
I think $1 million
$1 million?
per year.
$1 million per year?
That being said, are you looking in perpetuity or for 2 years or?
There is not a, we talked about so many things. I don't believe there is a sunset on this. There was on last year's bill, but there is not this in this particular piece of legislation, but we can certainly be glad to discuss that.
I think there needs to be a sunset provision on it where the General Assembly could review that thing, and I think that ought to be on a 2-year review to go along and coincide with our 2-year cycle on the board. That way, if it comes to the point that the economy doesn't do what supports the board can't support the bill, and that's given that maybe this bill passes. We never could get continuing education going. I don't know how they're going to cut money loose for this. I really don't, but that's just a personal opinion.
If I could address the 2-year, I would have some concerns about the 2-year simply because the time, the bill gets passed, you start the process, do what you have to do through the public relations process, get the commercials redone, what little bit they have to change on those. Time you would do all that and get that through there, it could be we're looking at less than a year by the time we get back, if it's on the same sort of thing as your sunset review. So the 2 years would be very concerning to me, that would not be enough time, one, to get the program up and going, and to see if there's any benefit from the program.
Yeah, this is a consumer protection board in so many ways. Licensed people, you heard us, I don't know if you were here when we were talking to an ex.
Yes, I was.
Protection of the public and licensing. I mean, the very name of our board is for licensing contractors. Make the case to me and this board why this use of this funding is a better use of it than continuing education for our contractors, public education for the public who are so subject to, not in the road building industry, but obviously in the construction trades of the storm chasers, of unlicensed and unethical contractors. I mean, those things, it seems to me, really enhance the mission of this board. Why is this a better use?
I'm not for sure I'm in a position to talk about what's the better use of your all's funds. The road builders I guess I'll speak in the fact of the road builders at this point. We're asked to be part of this. We thought everybody, I think, has a concern about having enough labor with regard to their businesses and trying to get work done. And so, we thought this was a great program based on what's happened in Alabama and Georgia. But for me, either with the road builders and/or as the chairman of the group, to say that this is a better use over any of number of uses, I'm not going to have that. I won't have that debate with you because I'm not, one, in a position to do that debate with you, and two, that's, ultimately it's your all's decision. Absolutely.
with Associated General Contractors of Tennessee, and I can address the construction side. The average age of a construction worker in commercial construction today is 56. For every 4 construction workers that retire today, 1 comes in behind them. And that's what this does. We've got the community colleges, we've got the apprenticeship training programs, we've got all those things. Unions have the apprenticeship training programs. Nobody's going into it anymore. That's the problem we have. We've got the jobs that are out there. I've been on the phone this morning with a reporter from Chattanooga talking about, you know, the job market and how we've got such a shortage of manpower right now. We don't have a shortage of jobs. We've got a shortage of people. And the young people today are not going in the construction industry like they were 20 years ago. Part of the problem is when they're in high school, the guidance counselors are saying, you got to go to college. Everybody's got to go to college. That's what everybody's gearing everybody for. I got 2 sons. Both of them went to college for 3 years and dropped out. And they were both honor students at Hillsborough High School. We've got to have people coming into our industry, or you won't have to worry about Board for Licensing Contractors anymore, because there won't be anybody out there working. You'll have companies, nationwide companies, that'll be coming into Nashville, Tennessee. We're seeing some of it a little bit at a time right now that are doing the work in Nashville, Tennessee. And so what this bill does, it does not pay for scholarships, it does not pay for apprenticeship training, it pays for marketing. It's a marketing program, T-shirts, baseball caps, brochures, ads on television, Mike Rowe, and it's just going into that mindset of young people, returning veterans, that need a job, that are saying there is another opportunity for you out here, and it's construction, and you can make $100,000 as a welder. You know, you can make $90,000 as a bricklayer. We don't have that now. Nobody's gearing anybody towards the construction industry, and nobody. I'm watching it right now in AGC of construction companies that have been family construction companies for years, 2nd, 3rd generations. There's not a 4th. There's not a 3rd. And all this money goes for is paying for. Come on, you've got an opportunity here in the construction industry. It's not going to be being a veterinarian or a lawyer or a doctor. I'm sounding like Johnny Stites now. But that's what it's about. It's and you know who your stalwart is on continuing education. But this is for young people going in the construction industry.
Good, thank you. I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to it,
understand.
but I just, you know, you did a good job. I see where you are, Bill. Can I ask y'all to do something for us then with this bill and with the sponsor? Would you get with Carolyn and come up with a better number than just 50% of what we've got that works on a longer term basis? Would you address some kind of reasonable sunset? 2 years may be too short from what Kent said, probably is, but a reasonable sunset provision to add to the bill. And would you address this issue that I raised earlier on about the writing of the rules?
I don't, you know, I've been around a long time, and I don't see this 501c3 doing anything without coming before this board and saying, here's what we've got. Now, what do you think?
I would expect that.
I don't see that.
But the way it's written, they approve what we do.
You know, legislation is written all the time that doesn't address everything. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that. The original bill had a 4-year sunset. And the original thought in this, until we found out that there were some issues about the money that you had collected and held, was just increasing the licensing fee $100 a year in the bill. Because I don't see where, and I've argued with some other people, that $100 a year to do this increase, I mean, you know, that's a golf game. So if there was anything we can do to bring in anybody in the industry, and I can give you some numbers that, and it may be propaganda from AGC in Alabama, but they said in 2008, when they started the program in Alabama, they had like 3,000. They went back and looked in community colleges, universities, and this is not just for field people. This is for construction management programs, anything related to construction. There were like 3,000 students in those fields in Alabama. And in 2013, there were 23,000. So the numbers are working.
One thing I want to address too is somebody talking about the reserve funds. I believe the legislation contemplates that your reserve funds would never be they would never go to the general fund. So that was one way also to protect your reserve funds.
I think the legislation specifically says that it can't be rated for the general fund, which I think would be.
Yeah, and obviously we've had conversations with the administration on this, and we're still talking with them about the bill as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. There's another bill that we have. Let's see if I can get my iPad back on. Next one, it's House Bill 68. This one is the citation bill that was on my wish list that I gave you all, I guess maybe 6 months ago, that we talked about. This would make it so whenever we issue a citation for unlicensed activity, you won't have to go to a formal hearing to collect it. It's set up on the same way as like the parking ticket thing. They either can contest it, or if they don't, if it's an uncontested case, it goes on and we can either go to collect it through a collection agency or the district attorney's office. But
Is there a fee structure going to be set up for that?
for the maximum.
Fine structure?
Yeah, it's $1,000 on citations.
That's the maximum
Yes,
for unlicensed?
right.
So in other words,
It was $250 for home improvement, and so this bill increases the current one that's in the law. So
some of the, as we've discussed already, some of the storm chasers or something, if they come in, they're unlicensed, and we typically hit them up with $5,000 fine if we take it civil penalty route, and through formal hearing, they're going to get off relatively light if they go ahead and accept the penalty.
yes, they would, but this would be a cease and desist order at the same time. You know, maybe you can catch them quickly enough to get them off the job. But the main thing is, if we start issuing citations again, you're not going to build up the complaint case and having to have a formal hearing on every single one of them, especially the ones that don't respond. Most of them that we have do not respond. We sit there and we read into a microphone, and the judge says, okay, you can collect it. And they won't even show up. That's the majority of them.
How are we gonna get a citation?
Well, we do have a pool of investigators, and they said that once we start this, that we could use them to take them out and send them out to issue the citation.
Well, the reason why I ask is a typical roofing outfit, and Keith can address this. Keith sends a house done in less than a day's time. Do we have somebody gonna get on that house within a day's time to issue a citation?
Try it. They keep saying that, you know, because when I asked for 10 inspectors, they said, you don't need them, we can use ours.
I have no problem with that at all, is if we can start nailing some of these people. I'm just curious how we're gonna be able to act so quick.
They have said that if they're not able to keep up, they will hire more, but they keep saying they can do it with what resources they have now with the staff.
We'd stop a lot of this if we hit the storm areas the day after, and for each roofing crew they found, do you have a permit, do you have a license? If not, then I'd agree with an on-the-spot citation. Catch them while they're there. But it's too late after they've already passed off whatever application, whether it's just collecting some funds and leaving, or whether it's doing a partial job or not a complete job, or do the complete job, not licensed, and they're gone. It's too late. That $1,000 is going to go uncollected anyway. And until the state takes a stance of on-the-job enforcement, we're never going to get this stopped, because they can come in 2 or 3 days here and there and you know, bring 5 or 6 crews with them and hit a section of housing. Saw it happen over in Kingsport, close to me. Roofers invaded from all parts of the country when that big hailstorm hit last August. And in days, roofs were on and people were gone.
And on those, if we can't get a citation out to them, they'll go into the ones where y'all can do the 5,000. But, I mean, that's what, I'm just saying that we give it a try. I mean, our other system hasn't worked, so it's.
They have the ability to stop working.
Yeah, the fine's not that big, but, you know, and that's something we always took in consideration in the past when we did issue citations, is whether 1,000 is enough, and on those, we didn't issue citations, mainly because.
Got to look at something on the bad side of this thing. I'm gonna pick on. Got a set of roofers out there, and they have got all the shingles off the house. And Reese comes up, gives them a citation, and it's gonna rain tomorrow.
I was thinking the same thing.
And now here we have ceased work on that house, and now it's gonna rain, and all that water's coming in that house, and that homeowner's, everything in his house is ruined. Now, I'm telling you, I've seen this happen, and so I'm just, this sounds good, but there's always a but to everything, and us being in the construction industry and seeing the good and the bad and the ugly, this could really be ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from Bill's house and rain's coming and we've stopped and it all comes in. His wife's not gonna be happy with all the antiques in his house.
I'm not gonna stop you. If I'm re-roofing the house, you're not gonna get me off of.
Do you
Sullivan
want me-
County tried to do that.
you
You'll have
wanna
to
have
wait
it-
till we can come out and inspect your underlayment. No, I'm not either.
Do you want to have it in the rules where I call a board member and say, I've got this job going out there, do you want me to issue a citation? It's not roofing, it's, you know, tell you what it is, and maybe you all.
Got discretion.
You got discretion. I mean, I'm just thinking some bad thoughts that happens every once in a while, just like he said, when all the hailstorm came in there, everybody jumped in there and they collected, a lot of people collected before they started and left with the people's money.
Yep.
And that's a big thing that we had, you know. I mean, we had one guy, 45 houses that he collected that money on and never did a drop of work. I mean, your idea is great, and I mean, it's a good idea, and it's
What you're saying makes sense,
but
so
you
I
got
just
to,
need to
you got to kind of
use
think about,
discretion.
what
Inspector
can
will
be
have to
done.
be trained that if it's a
Yeah.
situation that could cause damage.
Definitely. So that could be some rules that we could put in place if it does pass, that definitely look at to make sure that doesn't happen. But I'm surprised that it went through this, we've been asking for this for several years. This is the first year they took it seriously and gave it to the governor's office. It's already passing on the Hill.
Well, I'm happy we can
Yeah.
do something more than what we've been able to do, so I mean.
And
This
they
is
did
something-
put in there about exceeding limit.
Yeah.
So I was surprised about that, but, is that, if a contractor is exceeding their limit, it's considered unlicensed activity, so make sure y'all are aware of that.
Motion for this, or? Okay. Okay.
And, I have another bill, let's see, did I put it in here? I may have not got it in here. Okay, this is it's House Bill 71. All it does is, it's a administration bill. It combines LLE, the limited licensed electricians, and the limited licensed plumbers. Like we did with home improvement, we merged it with contractors. This will merge electricians and plumbers with contractors, so we'll count the money as a whole. Right now, they're sitting in separate accounts and it's not getting used, period. So, this would increase.
That wasn't on this budget.
It's not on that, but it's in your book though, what that amount is, and it's probably close to 4 million.
Road builders know about it.
Secret, that's our secret fund.
Don't need any action on that either.
No, let me see, electrician. Yeah, electricians have, the LLE, it has $1 million, and it's $1,009,000 in its reserve. Plumbers has $273,000. So,
$1.5 million sitting over there
yes,
in reserve, in addition to our.
right, yeah. And then I haven't tallied the last 6 months, so we're probably getting close to 6 million. Sitting there. Just can't spend it. Spend it.
Ready for legal,
Let's see, is that,
legal reports next.
Okay, thank you. As usual, I'm just going to read the recommended changes by the board. First matter is number 8 on the residential side. The board has recommended to authorize formal and send a consent order and a civil penalty in the amount of $20,000, which equals 4 violations at $5,000 apiece for unlicensed activity in Shelby County, and also refer to the Shelby County District Attorney's Office for possible criminal prosecution for theft. Next change is number 21 in the residential section. And the board recommendation is to send a consent order for voluntary revocation of the license based on some of the issues of workmanship and possibly walking off the job and not finishing it, but the respondent states that he's no longer in the construction industry. Number 3 on the commercial cases, the board's recommendation is to send a letter of warning to respondent number 3 for failing to respond to an open investigation, and close as to respondents 1 and 2. Case number 4, board recommendation is to dismiss as to this respondent and open a new complaint as to a commercial owner acting as builder without a license, and that will be investigated, and I'll make a recommendation on the next legal report. On the represented matters, case number 4, board recommendation is, in lieu of civil penalty, authorize a consent order for voluntary revocation, as it appears this respondent is no longer in the construction industry. On the document titled Memorandum from the litigator to myself, which will be an addendum to this legal report, the board's recommendation is to close and flag this matter in case of reapplication. And those are the only changes that the board had to council's recommendation.
For approval of the legal report as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Legal reports approved. Commercial classification discussion.
Under tab 11. It's come up and whether or not a commercial contractor could bid a project to, I believe it was to build a bridge. And based on the latest policy of the board was a commercial can bid it, but he can't perform the work. And so when you look at the law and the rules, it's sort of, and the way the board had reviewed it in the past, a commercial could bid it, and there was nothing where we added he could not perform the work. There was nothing that said he had to subcontract it. More than likely, he is going to subcontract it, but what I'm wanting is a different policy to say that commercial can bid pretty much anything except the ones that are already in the law that says you can't, like the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, masonry now, but that they can bid anything else and not add that they have to subcontract it to a licensed contractor. Because more than likely, these subcontractors that perform the work aren't licensed because they're not required as a subcontractor. And I've highlighted some different areas to show you what's covered in commercial, and it does say in different places, a couple of different places in the law, that a commercial contractor can bid on any type of project. It also states that that each building category may apply to any major construction. So that's under the building categories right below the commercial. And some of these categories are also in like the heavy construction, the highway, the MU, like the concrete foundations, erection and fabrication of structural steel, painting. It's several of them. So, and landscaping, there was another one. So I just wanted you to relook at it. Mark can probably add more.
Major thing there that it says that it's for use for occupancy.
Well, if you look at the law, it says commercial contractors are those contractors authorized to bid, own, and contract for every phase of the construction, direction, alteration, repair, or demolition of any building or structure for use and occupancy by the general public.
The key word, I think, is occupancy.
Occupancy, but structure and occupancy, yeah.
You're not gonna live on a bridge. You're not gonna occupy
It's
a
gonna be-
bridge. unless you-
Drive on it.
You're gonna drive on it, right. It's gonna be used by the public.
What's the proposed change, Carolyn? I guess that's what I'm
Just
confused.
to, I mean, right now, it says, a commercial contractor can bid anything, but in y'all's policy, it is, but they can't perform the work. They can bid it, but they have to subcontract it to a properly licensed contractor.
So in the case of a bridge, if you are a BC, you can bid it, but you can't do the concrete work?
Well, you'd have to split it out, and how are you gonna split it out? Right now, it says your classification has to cover 60%, so when you look at it, a commercial contractor building a bridge, he could do the concrete work, but is anybody gonna sit there and separate it in different and say, okay, he can do the concrete part, but he can't do, anything else that goes with the bridge?
You're specifically talking about highway bridges,
Yes.
not
I mean,
railroad bridges?
But I mean,
or
it's in
pedestrian
general,
bridges?
yeah. and-
Pedestrian bridges?
Yeah, I mean, any kind, under our three
Why would
classifications.
we go a different direction and make them have an HRA license instead of a BC license?
Most of them that do the HRA type work aren't required to be licensed, especially as a subcontractor. No, I'm not explaining this right. Mark, can you explain it?
Got me confused as well.
Oh,
Where's this coming from?
well, I
We had a
had
bidder that wanted to bid on a bridge that was licensed as a BC, but not as a HRA. Carolyn and I said, well, yeah, he ought to be able to bid on the project because he's a BC. And I guess that this is trying to say that he can bid on it, but he can't do the work?
Right,
Or
I mean,
Does it say he can't do the work now and?
Well, I think the
Yeah.
classification speaks for itself. A BC is building construction. Building, I don't think it means bridge. And I think you need to go to the classification that is listed for bridges in order to be able to build a bridge. I don't think we need to.
HRAC, right?
Yeah, HRIC, that's correct.
HRA license you can get without even taking an exam.
That's a thing I argued for years.
Why would you?
How do they get by with it?
Yeah, why
We
would-
have to have a license to build a house, but in order to build a bridge that
don't have to
100,000
be
cars will drive over in a day, you don't have to have a license. The
Need a
only thing you
general-
have to do differently
Right.
is
You need a general
TDOT, the
contractor
state,
over
has
it.
different regulations in order for you to qualify to be able to build that bridge. And therefore, once you pass all of those, it's a completely different deal than our licensing. And that's what gets them qualified to do it. You just can't go out there and bid a bridge with TDOT. And I think I'm right when I say this, to be able to bid that.
I don't think so.
Metro was doing a bridge, you wouldn't, TDOT wouldn't, you just have to be.
Federal safety standards on bridges, though?
Safety,
Whoever-
yes, but.
Yeah, but a builder would have to be able to prove they can meet that, wouldn't they?
For them to think you have sense enough to do it.
I'm with Keith. I don't think occupancy means driving over a bridge. Occupancy or occupancy?
Some people live under the bridge. Technical.
It's a law.
An attorney wrote this, and they didn't mean to put ands. Right, John?
Well,
The information
I mean,
we
you have to go by
Carolyn,
what's written.
is highlighted.
That's the problem.
What have you changed?
I haven't changed anything. I just
Okay.
pointing out where y'all been wrong all these years. That's all I've done.
We're not changing anything. Right?
Keep writing opinions saying, yes, you can bid the job, but you can't perform the work. And then come back and say,
Where does
okay.
it say he can't perform the work?
uh,
Because he's not a HRA licensed contractor.
That's how you all have interpreted it. It's under, look at page 3. The 626111D, contractor may bid on a contract requiring work in a classification or classifications other than the one in which the contractor is licensed if and only if the contractor has a commercial building contractor's license, or if the contractor's license would permit the contractor to perform at least 60% of the bid amount of the price of the work or the project being priced. However, the contractor may not actually perform any work in excess of $25,000, or in the case of a limited licensed electrician where the amount is less than $25,000.
Unless the contractor has a license. So that's basically, that's why they can't do a bridge, because they're not an HRA contractor.
But that second part only applies to the one with the classification that only covers 60% of the job.
They can bid if they can do up to 60% themselves, but if they're the other 40%, they can't.
Unless they're
do.
commercial. Not limited on bidding when they're commercial. That's what it says.
In case of a bridge, if you're a commercial contractor, you can do the concrete work, you can do the steel work. What can you not do?
Oh, no, but I hate telling them you have to hire a HRA subcontractor to perform the HRA part of the work. I mean, I comes up all the time. It's just when that was sent to me, it just really hit me. It's like, this is crazy. But, I mean, I'm sure they go ahead and bid it, and I'm sure they go ahead and perform it and do it. It's just, I was just trying to fix it, but it's okay. Y'all aren't fixable, so.
But you didn't change anything though, right? So, trying to fix something, we have to change it.
Just your policy. That's all I want to change, your policy.
So you want our policy to be that if you're a BC, you can build a bridge?
Right. You can bid it and stop it at that. Just, that you can contract to bid a bridge.
But wouldn't we have to have a?
But when you changed it the last time, you didn't have a special hearing. See, that was the way it was before, and then you changed it.
Not changing the rule, we're just changing the way we
Policy.
apply the rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with his BC license, couldn't he get an extension as an HRA or M?
Could.
Get that put on his license?
He could.
Solve that problem.
Right, it's all he would have to do. It's just at bid time, that's when they
He has
find
to
out.
list all of that.
Yeah.
Why would you say that if you're gonna do something like that, you're a BC?
I need to give up.
Sorry.
That's true too.
The bridge was one example.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's my hardest thing is, you do it for 20 years and then you change it for, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
if we did a rule or something, or if I looked at it.
Stopped that bad boy and cleaned it off the interstate in a matter of hours.
Our attorney agrees with you all, so we're gonna leave it as that. Yeah. I won't bring it up again.
Yeah, it's just the part that says, however, the contractor may not actually perform any of the work in excess of 25,000. I think that applies to both, not just the case where if their license will permit the contractor to perform at least 60% of the bid amount. I think it applies to both of the scenarios contemplated in 626-111 Part D. I don't know how it was done before, but that's just my reading of it right now on the spot. And I kind of agree with getting the HRA. I mean, they can bid it all day long. I just, when they come to actually do the work, I think they would have to subcontract it or.
I just add HRA to their license.
Yeah, and it's.
I think that's what the simple thing to do is if they're going to bid bridge work, add that classification to your license, come in, display the proper experience, and we've never had a problem with adding that classification to somebody's license.
Would it be okay if they had already bid the job?
They're bidding.
I mean, these are mainly ones that's already bid,
This
but we'll stop
This
it.
comes back to the same thing we've had before, though. After you've already had a bid opening, they have to disqualify themselves from the bid.
Well, they can bid it because they're a BC. And then they want to self-perform it, then they gotta get the HRA.
Yeah.
HRA, they just come in one of
Or
those.
get a subcontract.
Yeah, because
Come in
they're
HRA.
very good. Kathy pointed it out. They're not in violation when they bid it, so they can just ask for a hardship. and get it.
Get HRA, get it
Yeah.
done quick.
There you go.
We have hardships all the time.
All right. New business.
I think that's it.
Now, let me ask you a question. I have, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but I understand, the home builders have said that some of this inspection is gonna be in our residential areas are gonna be taken out of the hands of the fire marshal and put in. Know about it. So would you like to share that with the rest of us as to what you know? Cause I'm not quite sure, and I was looking at that $3 million, and if we gotta do that, it's gonna cost money to do it. So could you elaborate on that?
Right. Yeah, I met with Susan Ritter and your president, the Home Builders Association president, and they wanted to know if we were able to get inspectors again, would we be opposed of doing inspections? But they were gonna introduce, they were thinking about introducing a bill, but as far as I know, they haven't. So, they think I'm handling it? Okay. Well,
That's what I was told.
no,
a week
they
ago.
just wanted to explain that that was what they were thinking about and what were my thoughts on it. But,
What are your thoughts?
well, my thoughts are if they want us, if they pass the law and they want us to handle inspections, then yeah,
What kind of inspections?
residential inspections.
It-
In
What-
lieu of fire marshal's office performing the new home inspections, it would be the same thing, just under our board, but it's not gonna happen.
Marshall doesn't come and inspect my house.
Doesn't
It does in
yours,
one in several, like
but it
60
does
counties.
in most of the other counties, it does. All the rural counties does, and also the fire marshal is for some reason, is a lot of inspections in Shelby County is what I'm thinking's happening, but I'm not that for sure.
Fire marshals do inspections in Shelby County?
They're stirring up some stuff down there, and like I told you earlier, that had been. Home builders were gonna introduce a bill, or, I didn't know it introduced, but they had been I was told they'd been talking to Carolyn about our board taking in what the fire marshal does, and we'll be the inspectors, or over the inspectors, and taking it out of the hands of the fire marshal. For instance, the fire marshals have been trying to come in and regulate putting sprinkler systems all in the houses. And they've been adamant about that, and the all sprinkler systems in the house you want to, but if the homeowner doesn't maintain it, you're talking about all the houses, you're talking about these 900, 1,000 square foot houses.
There's a minimum square footage that they're requiring, and I think it's like 12 or 14,000 square feet before they have to have sprinklers put in.
No, it's 5,000. We have 5,000 down in our area. And, but they're trying to get it where it doesn't matter what
We
square
would
footage
take
you
over
go
there.
to.
I mean, that's another issue, but they're asking, or
Yeah, to take over for the fire marshal, because the fire marshal is not being sympathetic with what's going on.
that's just in the rural areas.
It's 60 counties. You know, we took over the LLEs. They used to handle the LLEs, and they transferred that program from fire marshals. They had discussed transferring the fire sprinklers, the little fire sprinklers, but they haven't done that yet. But it would be, if the law passed, it would, you know, it could possibly come to us as another program, but.
We're having,
We have one discussion is,
okay, and we're having
Let's
a lot,
monitor that situation. You can report back to us. And
that's fine. I just was,
I haven't heard anything else, and that's been several months ago.
They have their own board, fire marshal does.
They don't have a board,
He is the board. Who is he on?
the commissioner.
there is a designated fire marshal, though, besides the commissioner.
Not tomorrow yet.
Oh, the formal has been settled. All it needs is your signature, and it will be settled.
Okay, so I guess our next meeting will be,
It'll be March.
I guess we're ready.
We do,
We do.
but, March 24th and 25th. And, do you all want to meet in Jackson or Memphis in May?
I prefer Jackson, it's not far.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and set up Jackson if that's okay. Okay.
All right,
That's it.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Jared, we could go to Paris, John. We could go to Paris.
It's 1 o'clock.
Take your sandwich.